Michael Riotto is a multiple myeloma survivor and a fierce advocate for patients' rights on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., and in his home state of Pennsylvania.
It all started back in July of 2011 when my son, who was 13 at the time, asked me to take him and his friends to the Jersey Shore, which of course, I'm a 51-year-old dad trying to keep up with 13-year-old boys, and I was body surfing in the waves, and I happened to get tumbled in a wave, and I hit my neck on the beach pretty hard. The next day, went for an x-ray and actually fractured my neck. I fractured my C4 and my C5. And at that point, they fitted me with a collar, did some CT scans, did some blood work, and 1:30 in the morning, the attending comes in and says, "Your bones are moth-eaten." And I said, "What does that mean?" And found out that 88% of my bone marrow was filled with plasma cells, and I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma and incurable blood cancer. I can tell you that I didn't know anything about myeloma at that point until a kind nurse gave my wife and I some booklets and some pamphlets, and we're both reading the same line at the same time saying, life expectancy 5 years or less. We were kind of scared out of our wits. I can't tell you, we were totally lost. So I was diagnosed at stage 3, and we started induction therapy. And, I was on a triplet, so 3 different drugs, a few times a week. And we did that for about 7 rounds, give or take. I did blow up like a Pillsbury Doughboy because of all the steroids. So they prepped me all through this time to get ready for a stem cell transplant. And in this case, I was using my own cells or an autologous transplant. And we did apheresis the first week and collected my stem cells. I was one of those challenging people. It took me 4 days. Most people can give up enough, 10, 12 million cells in a day or two. Me, it took 4 days and 2 different medications because my stem cells were just stubborn, I guess. My doc says, let's go. I want to do your transplant before Christmas. And I'm like, no. We had no idea whether I was going to live 3 months or 3 years or 5 years at that point. So I said, can we just wait till after Christmas? And he's like, yes, we can. He says, but you're going to be in the hospital after Christmas. And trust me, he held his word. The day after Christmas, December 26th, I was admitted to the hospital. On the 27th, I was given my high dose of chemotherapy to eliminate every bit of the cancer that was in my body. And then on December 29th, I was given my stem cells back. And then, everything was fine in the hospital for the first few days after transplant. And then about January 4th, I went into septic shock. They told my wife, maybe you should call the family. Maybe it's time to say goodbye. But I'm here today, so I managed to pull through that. I've been on a drug holiday now since the end of 19, so it's literally 5 years, and I'm very blessed, very grateful. So I got involved with legislative advocacy and patient advocacy, which is absolutely my passion now. The Leukemia Lymphoma Society had heard about my issues with a particular drug that I was on. And the cost of that drug at that time was $18,000 and some odd change a month. My share was anywhere between $100 and $1,100. And obviously that's not sustainable. So they were working in the state of Pennsylvania where I live to pass what they call an oral parity bill. The insurance companies many years ago never thought that cancer could be treated with a pill. So all your intravenous drugs were classified under the medical benefit. But a pill is actually classified underneath your pharmaceutical benefit or your script benefit. And the insurance companies haven't caught up with modern times. There's a fair amount of oral chemos now. So what an oral parity bill would do, it would treat that oral chemo the same as it would as an intravenous chemo. I talked with some patients, some other patients, they were paying like $2,400 a month just to have their medicine. How do you do that? That's a choice between, a mortgage and food and an electric bill versus having, keep yourself alive. So that's where legislative advocacy comes in. So that Pennsylvania bill took about 4 years to get across the finish line. So there's now 43 states that have an oral parity bill. However, there's a huge chunk of people out there, about 80% of people that are insured commercially, that aren't covered under a state law because they're covered under a federal plan. So the last few years, I've worked with different organizations, including the International Myeloma Foundation, Leukemia Lymphoma Society, the PAN Foundation, among others, to get a federal oral parity bill. if an oral parity bill passed, what would happen is that the chemo pill that you're taking as a pill would actually be treated under your medical benefit and not your pharmaceutical benefit. So it wouldn't have unlimited cost because it would be capped. Most people have a cap on their medical benefit, whether it's a $2,000 or $6,000 or whatever, and their share of that would be much less. So let's talk about step therapy. It's one of the things that's near and dear to my heart because I think it's a complete waste of money, time, and effort, and it delays treatment, which is really scary. It's so important that the step therapy bill get passed. It's a simple thing like I think about all the time when I fall out of remission, and God forbid that ever happens. But since diagnosis, there's been 13 new drugs. All right. And I'm not sure what will happen with my insurance company when I do fall out of remission, whether I'm going to be able to get the latest and greatest drug because my doctor says, hey, you should be on this one, or they're going to make me go back to what worked the first time. And that's the scary part. It happens all the time. It's called fail first in many languages. And what happens is you have to have this old, inexpensive drug before you can get the latest and greatest, even though your doctor knows fully well that the latest and greatest drug is going to be better for this patient. So step therapy would eliminate all that, or at least would shorten the time frame for when an insurer can deny a claim. Cancer patients don't have much time. Time is critical to them. And having to worry about being on a therapy that isn't going to work, your doctor knows it's not going to work, but yet you have to take it so you can get to the next one, is kind of just ridiculous. It's a waste of time, effort, and money. People often ask me, Michael, why do you do everything you do? Why do you spend your time going to Washington, D.C.? Why do you spend time writing letters? I do it deep down because there's so many people out there that can't or won't, or they're just unable to. There's a lot of myeloma patients that can't get out of bed in the morning. They can't travel to Washington, D.C. to share their voice. So I share my voice for them. I stand up for all those people out there that can't share their voice. So it's important for people out there to share their voice, to talk to their congressman or their senator, or find an avenue where they can advocate. Advocating is simple. It could be anything from filling out a form letter and sending it on to making a phone call to actually, visiting Capitol Hill. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you can get involved. And believe it or not, senators and congressmen do tally up every single one of those emails that they get on a particular subject. So they know exactly what's going on. Having someone in the myeloma world or in your cancer world or in your disease state that you can share things with makes all the difference in the world. It really, really does. I can't tell you that going to a support group that supports you, or finding someone in the same disease state that you can share things with can be a huge mental help. So several years ago, I was at an IMF conference, International Myeloma Foundation conference in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm doing some peer-to-peer education. I'm doing a speech. And this gentleman comes up to me and he says, I'd like to ask you some more questions. And we started talking. It was a two-day conference. Next day he comes up again. He says, I would love to learn more and connect more with you. So we exchanged phone numbers, at that point, and emails. Next few days he called me. He had some more questions. And mind you, he was recently diagnosed at that point. So he had a fair amount of questions. I was involved with some peer-to-peer education at that point, and I knew that we were looking for other people to help. So I called the people that I worked with and said, hey, I met this great guy named Tony at this conference. We should bring him into the fold. And he also joined the group. So we would attend conferences together, and that's sort of how the friendship just started. But over the years now, and many years, 5, 6, 7 years later, we've become the bestest of friends. But having Tony as a best friend, who's somebody who's a myeloma patient, it's incredible for that support for both of us. When we each have our test results, or we each have our scans, and we talk about them, and we talk about the angst that's out there. We talk about that cloud over your head, and every once in a while, that friendship is an umbrella, to keep the clouds away. So having that support is pretty remarkable. Find your people. They're out there. Through all the years of being in the myeloma world or the blood cancer world, I do know many people out there that have found another person, or they have found a support group that they truly, truly like. I wouldn't trade the friendships and the people that I've met along the way for anything. I mean, I know that's kind of weird, but absolutely not. I have met incredible people. Lots of doors closed, and I can't do a whole lot of things I want to do, but a lot of doors open. And I think the biggest door that opened was meeting incredible people along the way. My email signature says, live and love like there's no tomorrow. I certainly live every single day as if it's my last. I try to enjoy every moment. I don't sweat any of the small stuff. I think about having a wonderful wife, 2 great kids, an incredible best friend. And I think about all the things that the Lord's blessed me with.
For more information, to sign up for our newsletter, and to connect with us on social media, visit bmtinfonet.org.